What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Pick Six Podcast, CBS Sports Daily NFL Podcast. I'm Will Brinson. I'm your host. It is Tuesday, June the 22nd, and we are going to do some quarterback rankings. By the way, happy birthday to my brother, Charlie, June 22nd. How exciting. He turns
Charlie B
turns 37 today. 4 days from now, Cody, I will turn 40. That is depressing.
Oh, wow. I think Charlie is, I want to say he's about Aaron Rodgers' age then, and you're going to be probably
like Tom Brady. That's right.
Yeah, but you know what? You know who's better? Or who just won the Super Bowl?
Well, maybe we'll find out if Tom Brady is ranked higher than Aaron Rodgers as we go through your positional rankings. This is the first of many positional rankings that we will do with various guests on the show. Also, I think I'm you know what, we're allowed to say you can't get vacation shamed on here because Ryan Wilson's not on. So I may be taking some time to spend with my family, get off the grind for a little bit. I'm sure Debo will do the same. It's been a long while since anybody really had any vacation. So excited for it. But we will keep cranking out these.
Can you share anything about the vacation? I mean, you can keep it personal if you want, but I mean, it's going to be birthday time. It's going to be.
Yeah, so we're gonna be just down the beach. It's my in-laws beach week. They rent a house for a week and we go down and hang out with them. And it's fun. It's really fun. There's a bunch of little kids, but like me and my brother-in-law and my two step-brother-in-laws we're all like real close friends. So it's
okay.
It's time. Yeah.
A little boardwalk walking or anything?
No, we hang out. Actually, you know what? This year could get a little crazy because we rented a house that's its own rights full, and it's near, like right when you go right across the bridge, and there's a slew of beach bars, and
we'll take it easy down there.
We were too far away from the beach bars before. Now we're close to the beach bars. That means one night it'll be the adults going out, and I'm sure something dumb will happen. I have plenty of stories I can tell.
Maybe you can live stream to the podcast that night without. Yeah, maybe not.
Yeah. You do not want. Well, I mean, people would want it live stream. I don't want it live stream for the sake of my employment and future employability. If you do want to watch us, though, you can watch us on YouTube. Go to youtube.com/pick6. And if you are watching on YouTube, hit the like button on the video right now. Click it, hit that like button. And feel free to tell us your top 10 quarterbacks in the comments or your favorite 3 quarterbacks, whatever you want to do. We will get to the top 10 now. But before we do that, I have to ask, which names were the toughest to leave off? And why was it Matthew Stafford?
Oh, I'm sorry. So Matthew Stafford I'm trying to think of the ones that just missed. So it'd be Matthew Stafford, it'd be Ryan Tannehill, it'd be Matt Ryan.
Ooh, yeah.
Baker Mayfield. I mean, I don't know if you want to go one by one here, but I've got a crop of them there.
Yeah, let's do it. So we don't want to spoil it, but yeah, I mean, Matthew Stafford, Baker Mayfield probably wouldn't have been on my list. I think Ryan Tannehill definitely would have been on my list. And I would say that this is actually, although, when you start to look at your list of quarterbacks, it is Bill Barnwell always likes to say, if you're going to talk about a snub, you got to pull somebody off. So we'll get to it right now. Number 10 is Kyler Murray. I think it's an interesting ranking. I'm taking Ryan Tannehill over Kyler Murray at number 10 for sure. And I don't know how high I'm pushing Ryan Tannehill, but I do think this is a symbolic of where he sort of stands in the NFL, just in terms of he's underrated. He doesn't get enough love for how good he is. And I think there's a little bit of previous bias about how, he's being traded from Miami and not being successful and being a high draft pick, but I think he's a darn good quarterback. I will say this list is amazing how jammed it is with good names though. So it's not easy to fit any more on there, but I probably would have found a way, I think, and I think I know how I would have done it, but I would have gotten Stafford and Ryan Tannehill on there. Those would be my two big
both of them.
Yeah.
Well, Ryan Tannehill is definitely, so when I did the quarterback power rankings last year, consistently, Ryan Tannehill was,
how awful is that job, by the way? I had to do that for a year. It is.
Well, each week, when you start the season, it's very exciting because you're like, football's back. But then, by week
10, you're like, kill me, Sam Darnold.
Well, then, by the end, you've got, like a quarter of the guys are like on backups and you're trying to rank John Walford. And but anyway, last year, the most consistent pushback that I got was from Titans fans thinking that Ryan Tannehill was too low and probably was. And now, again, he is the consistent, I think, not most popular, but the most named omission. And so I think maybe like, and I'll admit it, I think maybe a little bit of that like Miami stuff seeps in because you're not sure how much to separate, what he's done as kind of this play action. I don't want to say beneficiary of Derrick Henry, but like
I think it helps.
yeah, I mean like Derrick Henry, AJ Brown, like obviously Ryan Tannehill helps both of them, but they all kind of work together. And so it's hard to separate him from, and I know the offense looked way different with him as opposed to Marcus Mariota, but so the reason I included Kyler Murray at 10 and not Stafford or Matt Ryan or Kirk Cousins or Baker Mayfield is because, I mean, I just see so much, I guess, value, or at least the floor to me is so much higher when you can extend plays the way that Kyler Murray does. And now I actually think Kyler Murray doesn't get enough heat for the way that he forces some throws. I think that he's not necessarily the smartest decision maker. So I don't think he gets enough heat for that. But I think that there's so much, kind of like with Lamar Jackson, a little bit different, but similar. Just the way that they can move it gives you such a higher floor because regardless of whether the team around you is good, you can extend plays always. I mean, Kyler Murray is never going to be an easy out. Whereas Ryan Tannehill, I think if you plug him into Arizona, and this is, I don't know if this is the right way to approach it, but like I looked at, so Cleveland, and their offenses are operated differently. Cleveland,
You're basically
Tennessee,
saying like
Arizona.
If you swap out, like how would be better, Kyler Murray in Tennessee or Ryan Tannehill in Arizona?
And it's not a perfect exercise because part of the ranking is like considering their current supporting cast. Like Matthew Stafford with the Rams is much better than he was with the Lions. But I look at like, would I take Kyler Murray over Baker Mayfield in Cleveland? Now, like Cleveland might say our system might fit a little better with Baker Mayfield. The city might like Baker Mayfield a little better, but I just see the floor as being higher with a guy like Kyler Murray, who he's still very young. He's got a really good arm. He can move all the time. Do you buy that at all?
Yeah, dude. And look, the thing with Kyler too from last year, look, he had more passing yards, 26 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, rushed for 819 yards or something like that. He and Tannehill had the exact same approximate value per Football Reference. I mean, they're very similar in terms of what they brought to the table. And I would say too that Kyler had a stretch of games from, it was after the Buffalo game, so he hurt his ribs. It was Seattle, New England, and the Rams game where he had rushed no less than 5 times every single week, and really was. And so if you look at the numbers leading into those games, so in the 9 games prior to those games, he averaged. Let's see, where is it? He averaged. He had 9.7 rushing attempts per game, and then when he hurt his shoulder, I thought it was very clear that they sort of pulled him back because he only averaged 5 rushing attempts per game over the next 3 weeks before he got healthy. And they just weren't the same offense. They weren't the same team. They lost all 3 of those games when Kyler was banged up. And then, they needed to win one of the final games of the season in order to make the playoffs. They couldn't pull it off. They lost their last 2 to San Francisco and to the Rams. They play in a tough division. He's still a very young player in his second year. I think his ceiling is higher than Ryan Tannehill's. I would say that the floor, and I know what you're saying, Kyler just gives you the. I think Tannehill's a little more safe, like a safer play. If you plugged him, he would more likely have success in different spots. Whereas I think Kyler would have to sort of acclimate to the offense. It might take him, longer, or not longer to acclimate to it. But I just think I would take Tannehill over Kyler Murray with what they've done right now. But going into 2021, I don't know that I would necessarily want to be betting on Tannehill to outperform Kyler.
Yeah, and it's kind of like when we talked about the some other lists, like top 25, under 25. I think there's a solid group of guys that are like clearly top 5 to 7, even top 8 or 9. I think that there's a big crop of quarterbacks in the NFL. You talked about how there's almost an overload of names that are good. Like you're surprised, wow, I can't even get this guy on the list or even close to it, but he's still a good quarterback. Like, I mean, we might not think Kirk Cousins is a Super Bowl caliber quarterback, but I'd say most teams think he's a passable, if not good, quarterback, and he can't really sniff the top. I mean, because you're talking about Matt Stafford, you're talking about, I mean, Derek Carr is maybe top 15-ish. I mean, he could inch closer. I had a group there listed of guys that just missed and then kind of the next tier. But yeah, I think that the ones that didn't make it, it'd be kind of like that Ryan Tannehill, Matt Stafford were kind of the two that I think if you really wanted to squeeze them on there, you could.
I was looking at like a 2015 list of top quarterbacks, and Joe Flacco made this list. So, you know.
Did you know that last year Aaron Rodgers wasn't on the list?
Who did the list last year? Did you do it?
No. Do you want me to say?
Is it? Yeah, I've buried this person. Who was it?
Well, no.
Is he still working at CBS, or is he gone?
No, and I don't want to. Yeah, I don't want to intensify this.
No, bury him. He came back at you for the coaching thing. Bury him. Sean Wagner left Aaron Rodgers off the top 10 quarterbacks list last offseason before Aaron Rodgers won MVP. Oh, mercy me. Let's see. Top 10 quarterbacks. What
I don't he may have probably like addressed this too, like during a quiet off season day or something. But
would it be 2020 when you would have done it?
Yeah, because I think in the headline there was something about Aaron Rodgers kind of missing it this year. And to be fair,
here's the headline: ranking top 10 NFL QBs for 2020 season: Aaron Rodgers misses cut. Matthew Stafford poised for career year. Whoops. And I'm not saying I didn't agree with him or disagree with him, but that is an unfortunate little thing for Sean.
To be fair, yeah, like Aaron Rodgers has always been good, but I know there was that kind of like a 2-season stretch where his interception total was low, but it was also because he was kind of like not taking chances as much. And so this year, he went on the spike tour against the Packers, and it kind of all came back to life.
Yeah, he had Matthew Stafford and Carson Wentz, and someone else on there that was not ideal. I had Drew Brees at number 4. I mean, just a kind of a disaster there for old Sean.
I would have had Carson Wentz on the list too. So
you would have had Carson Wentz, yeah. But
I would have had Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah,
I definitely would have.
Yeah. The danger is if you're trying to call for the decline of Aaron Rodgers, you need to be right. You just be late. You don't need to be early to that. It's like Sam Monson did a thing for ESPN way back in the day where he said, I can't remember what did he say? He said, he was like, he was basically said Tom Brady's old and washed up. This is like 2005. It's like the all-time old takes, or 2008, 2010, or whatever it was. It's like the all-time old takes exposed. But anyway, so yeah, I would have, Matthew Stafford was, Aaron Rodgers was a notable omission from last year's list. I don't think you'll get as torched by Ryan Tannehill or Matthew Stafford as Sean did. And, as we point out, Kyler Murray at 10, Justin Herbert at 9. These lists get harder because all these young quarterbacks are flooding the NFL while plenty of the aging veterans like Rodgers hang around.
Yeah, I think if anything, he could be higher. Justin Herbert, we talked about when we were discussing top 25 players under 25. I think we both agreed that if you were to kind of redraft those quarterbacks under that age, you might consider Justin Herbert over Lamar Jackson, or at least it would have to be a conversation. Just because we looked at, I think you pulled the numbers on quarterbacks in NFL history that have posted what he did as a rookie, and it was, I think, the only like non-Hall of Fame guaranteed guy was like Dante Culpepper in there. There was tons of, it was all-time greats, and we talked about. Other quarterbacks have started well early in their careers and fizzled out, but not many have had Justin Herbert's. Like he's a prototype at quarterback. He's got the size, he's got the arm. He knows how to do it at the NFL level under an iffy decision-making staff. And so, yeah, I think the arrow is pointing up in every way. The only question really is whether under a new staff with the defensive head coach and behind an improved offensive line where he maybe doesn't have to make as many off-script plays, are the numbers going to be just as good? But I think the arrow's pointing up. It'd be a surprise if he wasn't higher than number 9 next year.
I would agree with that. Although, golly, it's hard to, when you start looking at this list, it's hard to push your way through some of these bigger names, including Lamar Jackson at 8. I don't know if we talked about this or not, but the Lamar Jackson had a bad year or Lamar Jackson regress stuff is wildly overblown. No, he didn't do what he did in his MVP season, but he threw for 36 touchdowns and, led the league in QBR and, led the league in approximate value and could throw for 3,000 and rush for 1,000. But I mean, he still threw for 26 touchdown passes, had only 9 interceptions, rushed for, led the league in yards per attempt again, had 1,000 rushing yards. Was a very good quarterback. It just wasn't as good as he was in 2019. And that seemed unfair to me. There was going to be some statistical regression.
Yeah, exactly. No, I mean, it was similar to like after Patrick Mahomes threw 50 plus touchdowns. I mean, you're talking about like the odds are the numbers are going to be down, but yeah, I mean, you would take that season, those numbers from, I mean, your quarterback almost any year. I mean, I think that, you look at his passing numbers, like there are legitimate questions about like being a consistent deep ball passer, being a consistent big game quarterback. I know like in his playoff games, he's completed only 56% of his throws. I mean, so that's, you got to address that at some point, but you don't like throw 60 plus touchdowns, only like 18 picks, go 30-7 and 37. You don't do that stuff by accident. And so, kind of like Kyler Murray, I think in a bigger way though, he's just able to, like, I don't know if you want to call it the floor or the ceiling, the electricity that he brings with his legs is just, I mean, it is Michael Vick level. It's just like Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers. There may be guys that are better quarterbacks, but there's probably not a better pure athlete, pure playmaker at that position. Definitely not at that position, but at any position maybe.
I know what you're saying. I don't know if it's floor or ceiling or like what it is, but I know what you're saying. Like, the ability to extend it's just like there's this ability to, like, he may not be the best quarterback, but he's always going to give you a chance on every play because the athleticism is just, it's more than anyone else on the field. So every play there's a chance. It just makes life a lot harder for defenses because you have to plan for multiple things. And by the way, we should point out Ryan Tannehill is a very good runner, but not the way that Kyler Murray or Lamar Jackson. I mean, the suddenness, the speed, the like that touchdown run he had in the playoff game, where he completely flipped everything. Tennessee was going to win. And all of a sudden he's just taking off down the sideline, running 50 yards for a touchdown. It's like, this is over. And it's just something where you can play great defense. You can play great defense. And then boom, he's gone. And it's soul crushing and backbreaking. And it gives you a variability as an offense that you don't have with some of these other guys. So I know what you're saying. I don't know if it's floor or ceiling but I know what you're saying on a play-to-play basis. His floor is massive, potentially controversial, but probably not. I was two guys potentially controversial here. Number 7, Dak Prescott. Number 6, Desean Watson. Did you hesitate about putting Dak, like, was there any concern about where Dak would be on the list because of his injury, or do you think he played well enough before he got hurt last year where he deserves this? And then with Watson, this is where I would have snuck Matthew Stafford on, by the way. I would have said, we're leaving Watson off because we don't know if he's going to play for sure. I would have used that as like a loophole. Watson, if he's playing, is certainly on this list and played great last year after a little bit of a slow start. But those two guys are kind of tough to rank just because of injury and then the off-field stuff.
Yeah. So for Watson first, we had discussions obviously about whether to include him or not. And at this point, he hasn't been suspended. He hasn't been charged. And so, I think everyone would agree it's very unlikely he's going to play for Houston or play a full season this year. But when he's on the field, obviously the legal issues are more important. But aside from those, from a football perspective, I mean, Desean Watson's pretty close to giving you what you're looking for at every, level of a quarterback prospect. He's calm in the pocket. He can move. He can throw. He's got, I don't know that he's like an elite arm talent like Patrick Mahomes, but he does everything, well. And so, the question there is, when is he going to be able to showcase that talent again, or will he be able to showcase that talent again, and where? For Dak Prescott, I was at the camp for a while that Dak Prescott's kind of like I want to say Kirk Cousins, Baker Mayfield range. Like he's good, but he's kind of just like not a placeholder, but like a point guard in that system kind of. But he's put up some big numbers too. And you look at the history of his record in Dallas, and the Cowboys obviously haven't made that much noise in the playoffs, but he's good enough to always get them in a position to make a run. And they weren't, the defense didn't help him out at all last year early on before the injury, but he was on pace to shatter some records. I mean, Dak's he's always been comfortable operating in the pocket. He's another guy kind of like Desean Watson. I don't look at him and think this is a freakish talent, but he's a really good, I guess, handler of the football in that offense. So
I see. I tend to look at him, and I understand that you also have, and it's changed now, of course, with Carson Wentz being traded to Indianapolis. But like Philly fans were probably to a fault. I mean, I'm not like criticizing you or Debo for this, but it's because you guys were going to will Carson Wentz to be better than Dak Prescott,
Yeah.
And like that debate raged for so long. Like, so it was like, you're stuck in the Carson Wentz camp. So you don't want to give Dak, nobody wanted to give Dak any credit, because if you do that, then you're technically like maybe taking away from Carson or whatever it is. But I mean, I've always looked at Dak. I always talk about this the other day with somebody, because NC State played Mississippi State in a bowl game in Charlotte. And I went and watched it. And it's like, man, this guy is unbelievable. And he was on pace for something. I can't find the first 16 game numbers, but I mean, he had almost 2,000 passing yards in 5 games last year before he got, and in one of those games, he got hurt halfway through the game. He was going to put because the Cowboys defense was so bad and he was having to throw, through 39, 47, 57, 58 before he got hurt, and then 21 in the game where he got hurt against the Giants. He was going to have to throw 50 times a game minimum because their defense is so bad. And he was going to throw for 6,000 to 5,000 passing yards easily, like maybe chase 6,000 if the Cowboys defense really couldn't do anything. And so I do think that we'll see Dak come back. I hope he's healthy. And I think he's still got a ceiling that he hasn't quite reached just because of his physicality. But I understand the concerns about him and how it works, works better in a great offense. It has tons of weapons. Like, he's had everything set up nicely for him. But part of that is because of where he was drafted, and now he's got the contract. And
I do like, I've been firmly out of the debate has been over for a while now.
Yeah, it's over. Right. Yeah. Dak won
there was a stretch like in 2017 where Dak had some turnovers and Carson Wentz was on the MVP run where it seemed like, wait a second. It's been flipped for a while. And I think Eagles fans would, they might not admit it, but they would like Dak Prescott in an Eagles uniform if it was, the history wasn't there.
Absolutely. And the thing with Dak, but this is a good spot for him at 7-2. Like, I'm not going to pound the table and tell you he should be top 5. I could see arguing putting him above Watson, mainly because we don't know if Watson's going to play, and Dak looks like more.
And Deshaun's ranking is like completely contingent on,
of course,
obviously, like, if we're drafting quarterbacks right now, he's probably, until that stuff is,
you're not taking him because you don't know. But I also think when you look at this, for Dak to be a top 5 quarterback on this list next year, it would almost, as you look at it, we'll get to these guys in a second, but you feel like you would need a retirement,
or he needs to win a big game. And that's partly, on the Cowboys as well, but the coaching staff, the defense, but he needs to, like, he's had chances to win the NFC East in games where he didn't do it. The Cowboys have made it to the playoffs, haven't gone very far. He's got to do that.
Fair point. Yeah. At number 5, Josh Allen, the Bills quarterback who had an incredible breakout season last year, probably would have been MVP. Maybe Mahomes would have won it, but he was right there for the MVP with Aaron Rodgers down the stretch, played fantastic all season long, really shoved it in everybody's face in terms of people who thought that he could not become a great NFL quarterback, because he did. And he took the kind of leap where, he could get paid this offseason. We'll see. We talked about this a little bit about whether he would or, whether he would or wouldn't. It doesn't matter. He's going to get $40 million a year when he finally gets paid. Did you have any thought of moving him higher than this, or do you think this is a fair estimation of Josh Allen right now?
Yes, I think that who we talk about next, I think you could probably make the argument you could swap them. I mean, especially if you were looking at long-term upside as well. Right. But I think, I was going to say maybe this is a cautionary tale for like Dolphins fans with Tua Tagovailoa, but there's a difference in that Josh Allen came in with kind of these, like, as long as he could maybe throw the ball a little more accurately, he's got all the physical tools. I mean, you look at Tua and he's got the intangibles, I think, and maybe an accurate ball, but you're wondering, is the physical skill set elite? I think with Josh Allen, yeah, you asked people in 2018, were the Bills right to draft this guy? Most people would have said no. I mean, they made the wrong choice. And he's kind of done something that you don't see often, and that he's gotten more accurate each year in the NFL. I mean, his numbers have improved for, each season he's been in the NFL. And then last year he looked like everything you want in kind of a modern day quarterback. He can move. He's not going to, he takes probably a little too many shots like Kyler Murray. He could stand to cut down on some of the bad decisions, but I don't know. He's set up well, and I think he's going to have the Bills contending for, this year and beyond.
Yeah. Allen made his first Pro Bowl last year. Probably could have been an all pro. They went 13-3, threw for 4,544 passing yards, 37 touchdowns, 10 picks, just 10 picks, man. He was incredible last year, and actually led the NFL in terms of approximate value contributed to the Bills. That's very impressive. He, by the way, no slouch in the run game either. 421 rushing yards and 8 rushing touchdowns. He's basically their rushing threat in the red zone. And that, we talk about Lamar, we talk about, Kyler Murray. I think that Josh Allen is similar, and the build is there, but similar to Cam Newton in terms of what he can bring with his legs in the red zone and how dangerous that makes him in terms of a dual threat once they get down to the goal line.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think he's got, and unlike, I don't want to say, I mean, Kyler Murray is strong, and I think Lamar Jackson is obviously faster, but Josh Allen's kind of that sweet spot where he maybe brings you the build to sustain some of those hits, being a runner. And I think he's also just the best passer of those three. So that's why he's higher on the list.
I would agree with you. All right, let's take a break. And when we come back, the top 4 on Cody's list. Okay, so the top 4 quarterbacks on your list, honestly, like, not that we're trying to cut it short, but I mean, we'll name them. I don't think this is what makes this so, you talked about, you said like, yeah, I'm not getting we talked before, you're like, I'm not getting like a ton of angry feedback. And this is kind of why, because at 4, Tom Brady, 3, Russell Wilson, 2, Aaron Rodgers, and 1, Patrick Mahomes. If you could maybe people get mad that Rodgers isn't ahead of Mahomes, but like those guys are, it makes it hard to crack the top 5. There's only really room for one of those guys. I don't see Tom Brady slipping dramatically. Maybe Aaron Rodgers retires or doesn't play for the Packers and he falls off the list. I don't see Russell Wilson just being moved off the list. He's going to keep playing well, even if he had some bad stretches down the end last year. And then of course, Patrick Mahomes is Patrick freaking Mahomes. Like, he's going to be in the MVP race every year.
Yeah, I mean, this is if you talk about, there's a huge crop of guys who are kind of good, but maybe not elite. I mean, this is the crop where you'd just be hard pressed to call them anything other than elite. And Tom Brady, it looked like, we talked about being too early on a kind of declaring a quarterback's demise. And I think like you might have been justified in watching the Patriots in 2019 and saying, I don't know, like Tom Brady, they look pretty sluggish. He's going to leave, who knows how it's going to work in Tampa Bay, but he he threw 40 touchdowns. He turned it on the most at the end of the season. He threw probably better than he has in years. And I mean, he's got a good coach. He's got a good supporting cast, but I mean, it's still like, I don't know that we still understand how ridiculous it is that Tom Brady he organized this Buccaneers Super Bowl. I mean, he's
43 and he put together a Super Bowl and a new team in the middle of a pandemic.
Everything about it was nuts. I mean, we never see teams buy championships in the NFL, but Tampa Bay did it. And I mean, when Tom Brady, it would be like the joke to have him win the Super Bowl after going to the Bucs. He did it. And so that's the only reason, like, you just can't discount him. Russell Wilson, it's kind of funny that like he was almost a lock for MVP for a while, and then we kind of consider the season disappointing.
He was minus 125 5 weeks into the season. Then it was just over.
Yeah.
And you're right. It is kind of considered a disappointment. By the way, Brady down the stretch in those final 3 games, and then obviously played really well in the playoffs, but he averaged 379 passing yards and had 10 touchdowns and 1 interception in his final 3 games to really, force their way to the playoffs and make sure that they were, going to be set up. But yeah, and it was kind of almost the opposite of Russell, right? Like, Russell was great early on and then struggled down the stretch, and the Seahawks got, run out of town by the Rams in the playoffs. I think a lot of times, when teams play well matters to us, or when quarterbacks play well matters to us. And it should, and that's okay. You know, and Russell not playing well down the stretch probably dinged him. And, you know, if you're doing this list in week 4 of last year and you were doing the power rankings, he was probably number 1.
Yeah, no. And I think like we tend to get caught in this like weekly game of like every throw, every performance is like a referendum on each quarterback. And so like Kirk Cousins lost the Monday night. Well, this guy should, you know, he's not the answer. You know, Dak, whatever. We do that every week, every throw. Absolutely. And so, you know, with Russell Wilson, yes, it was a disappointing finish, but my point there is if your quarterback's disappointing season is, you know, being the front runner in the MVP race, throwing 40 touchdowns, always escaping pressure, like, I mean, most teams in the NFL, unless they employ Aaron Rodgers or Patrick Mahomes, are going to sign up for that. And so that's why he's there. And then between Rodgers and Mahomes, I mean, you've got 2 of the most effortless throwers, calmest pocket operators. They're just incredible.
Probably the 2 most, well, I'll get yelled at by Dan Marino fans, I guess, but I think Rodgers and Mahomes might be the 2 most physically gifted quarterbacks of all time, just in terms of what they can do with their bodies. You know, I thought Rodgers is the answer to that question until Mahomes showed up.
Yeah. I mean, they're not like Lamar Jackson. I mean, he blazes, you know, across your TV screen. And so he's incredible entertainment, but the way that Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes, like the way that the football moves from their hand to where it's supposed to go, whether they're on their knees or whether they're running across the field, like it just always works, or it works way more often than anyone else who's throwing the football. And so you trust those guys, regardless of the situation.
Yeah. I mean, did you think about putting Rodgers above Mahomes? Because he won.
Yeah, for a split second, but I think I'd still take.
No one is taking Aaron Rodgers in 2021. Like if the Packers called the Chiefs called, if the Packers called the Chiefs and said, "Hey, do you want Aaron Rodgers for Patrick Mahomes?" They would obviously hang up.
Yeah, like if it was a Super Bowl, I'm split on. Like I trust either of them to get the job done.
Sure.
I mean, it's different if we're talking about
the Super Bowl give me Brady.
Sure. Yeah. Now it's just ridiculous with him.
I mean, it really is. It is. No, but I agree with you. You know, and the thing too is, you know, you have to make this list. We were making fun of Sean, you know, for his list last year. You have to make the list knowing that, you know, a year from now, people are going to come back and be like, look at this idiot. He had Mahomes at 2. You know, you could reward Rodgers for that MVP season by making him number 1, but he also might not play this season. And Patrick Mahomes is definitely going to play and probably going to be awesome again. So why not stick with Mahomes? So I agree with it in the sense of, hey, I know Rodgers won MVP. He's the second best quarterback in football right now. We can all be okay with Patrick Mahomes being number 1. I don't think Rodgers would get too riled up about seeing that.
Yeah, like I trust both of them enough to, like, if they're flip-flopped or whatever, like I trust both of them enough to make the list good. Like there's no, like it doesn't keep me up at night or even close to it. Like these guys are, this is the
easiest part of the list. It's just 1 and 2, just get it knocked out and get it done. That's right. All right. It's a good list. And like I said, you know, you get your first 8 guys are I mean, you know, with the exception of Desean and you know, his off-field stuff. I mean, those first 8 guys are kind of set in stone. There's not a whole lot you can do. You move them around, but then it's just basically, let's pick 2 more guys to be on the back end with them. And certainly Justin Herbert, Kyler Murray played really well. All right, Cody, great stuff as always, buddy. Thanks for jumping on. Great list. Everybody go check it out at cbssports.com, and we'll talk to you again soon, man.
All right. Thanks, Will.